We've all pictured the perfect music video for a song we're working on. Or maybe we've imagined our song soundtracking the emotional climax of a Grey's Anatomy or House MD episode. That's because pairing music with visuals turns sound into an experience that you can see, feel, and live inside. But I have bad news. Creating that visceral experience for a listener isn't as easy as just slapping a random pretty video on any old song. Because you're probably making a fundamental mistake in the way that you create atmosphere in your music. So how do I know this? As a producer for indie artists, I listen to dozens if not hundreds of unreleased tracks each month from artists and producers ranging from complete beginners to artists who've had placements on New Amsterdam and Wednesday. And I've noticed a very clear pattern. The way that beginners and the pros create a sonic world around their songs is completely different. In this video, I'm gonna break that difference down using examples from some of the masters of this craft so that you can create atmosphere in your music like your favorite artists and not waste time going down a dead end. So picture this. You're a broken man creating a record about grief and heartbreak in a cabin in the woods. Does that sound familiar? Now you want the music to feel like that cabin in the woods and invite the listener into the physical space you're recording in, or like the setting of the record. Well, let's start with how most beginner and intermediate producers would approach this. All right, so we got a guitar loop. Now let's make it sound like a cabin in the woods. Forest night ambience. Nice. Drag that in. And maybe there's like a fireplace inside the cozy cabin. Yeah. It's alright. It's very literal. It's the musical equivalent of when a Dhar Mann character goes, "So you see," and then like equates racial profiling to "don't judge a book by its cover," except less problematic. But it's the easy way out. Now in contrast, how does Justin Vernon do it on For Emma Forever Ago? Well, the 60s Sears catalog guitar he used on the record is thin and hollow, and it's almost whispery. It sounds fragile and broken, like Justin was when he was making the record. The imperfect timing, the creaking floorboards seeping into the recordings, the noise and the hiss and the reverb echoing off of the wooden walls, that all just creates this sense of space in a way that feels very natural and very authentic, unlike our little splice loop example. But that's the difference. It's not just a physical space. It's an emotional space. Some crackling fire and distant crickets might invite you into the physical cabin in the woods, but not the emotional cabin in the woods. Remember, Emma isn't a person. It's a place you get stuck in.
Everybody has an Emma. What the title means for me, it's about somebody that I was in love with. But it is a bit metaphorical. It's not about one person. It's about me.
But in most of the self-produced music I hear, Emma is just a person. And the artist or the producer is pointing at a picture of Emma going,
"Look, this is Emma. Emma broke up with me, and the feeling that I feel as a result of that is sad."
All right, I've been speaking in metaphor for a while, so let's get practical. I don't want your takeaway from this video to be that you have to get broken up with, get pneumonia, and then isolate yourself in a hunting cabin in order to make a great record. It can be a lot simpler than that. There's a term for what I'm talking about here. Word painting, which just means when music reflects the lyrics of a song. This can be incredibly straightforward and on the nose, or it can be very abstract. In the case of For Emma Forever Ago, it's pretty abstract. We're likening the sound of a guitar to the mental state of a broken man. Pretty crazy, but don't underestimate the power of the brain to subconsciously make these connections. So these connections that our brain makes between lyrics and music is exactly what creates these emotional and physical worlds around our songs. Now let's dive into how to do it. Our Bon Iver example is also word painting on a very broad level because we're talking about the sonics of an entire record. If you're not used to thinking about music in this way, this can be a pretty daunting thing to approach in your own work. But word painting can also happen on a much smaller scale, local level, which is often a much more approachable place to start to dip your toes into this kind of thing. I'm going to show you 4 different examples of word painting, starting with the most on the nose and then ending with the most abstract. They all have one very important thing in common though. Try to figure out what that is while you listen.
I tried to scream, but my head was underwater. There's helicopters over my head. Death, like space,
There's 100 cigarettes on the ground, and our clothes are still hanging around.
So they all follow a format. 1, thing is said. 2, sound reflects meaning of thing. If you notice that, great job. But I was also kind of misleading because to understand the most valuable takeaway, you actually need the full context of the song. If you're enjoying this video and you want more stuff like this, then you should sign up for my newsletter, which is the top link in the description. Every 1 to 2 weeks, I share stories and insights that will make you a better artist or producer. And it's fun to read, and there's no AI slop. So if that interests you, top link in the description. All right. Back to the video. You see, none of these sounds appear in isolation. The moments that I showed you on their own are like sound effects plus. It's slightly cooler than just plunking in a sound effect off of Splice because it's an instrument doing a weird, cool thing. But at the end of the day, if it's not integrated into the overall soundscape, it's not that much better. All of these examples do that masterfully. The first moment you hear them, it's kind of stark and it jumps out. But then later when you hear that sound again in a different context, your brain can kind of contextualize it. Let's go through one by one.
I tried to scream, but my head was underwater.
So this is a fun one because it's not actually an instrument, it's the way the lead vocal is processed. A low-pass filter is automated in for a second to make Billy's vocals sound underwater. Low-pass filtering appears all over this song. The entire second verse, which this line is a part of, has this really underwater sounding synth arp in the background. And it makes this moment just fit. I tried this on a song of mine that I'm working on that has a similar lyric, but instead of my voice going underwater, it's actually my violin. This one's much more subtle, but Phoebe's guitarist, Harrison Whitford, does some weird extended technique and effects with his guitar to make it sound like the blades of a helicopter whirring.
There's helicopters over my head.
It's a super isolated moment. The electric guitar doesn't come back for another 1.5 minutes, but it still functions as this sort of foreshadowing for the much bigger, more cinematic outro of the song. Genius stuff.
Death, like space.
This one's really similar to Scott Street, but it's just a bit more abstract because space is such an abstract concept that doesn't really have a sound. But that's what's so great about word painting. It can go beyond just mimicking literal sounds, which means the possibilities are endless. I took inspiration for this on a song that I produced for another artist, where I used instrumentation to give a sound to something that doesn't necessarily have a sound. The lyric is about a teddy bear disintegrating on the side of the road, and I used an EBow on an acoustic guitar to create this kind of rattling sound to help bring that imagery to life.
Disintegrating, and I can't.
Lost With You actually happens the other way around. The instrumental section before this creates this larger than life upside down world. And then the lyrics in the final verse ground us back in reality.
There's 100 cigarettes on the ground, and our clothes are still hanging around.
But then that little plucked arpeggio that comes in sounds to me like it's saying, don't be fooled, the world is still upside down. And it might be a stretch, but to me that arpeggio is doing some actual word painting on like a very local level. It's such a striking and almost out of place moment that it makes me think again about that line that was just said. And maybe it's just the weird way my brain works, but to me at least, that sound is exactly what a bunch of clothes and cigarettes scattered on the ground of a rundown room with pale sunlight streaming through a boarded up window sounds like. So all these examples start, or sometimes end, with this one little moment of back and forth that emphasizes a certain lyric. You'll also notice that the lyrics are pretty often a physical description, and the music serves as this subconscious reminder to imagine that thing and put yourself in that world. And the sound reappears elsewhere in the song, and because of that little individual moment of word painting, that sound is like a trigger for your brain to remember that imagery and then create a world around it. And just to clarify, this is made possible by the fact that it's an instrument and not a sound effect. If Phoebe had used a helicopter sound effect in that moment, yeah, it would have sounded pretty cool, but there's only so many ways you can reincorporate a helicopter sound into an indie folk song. A guitar, though, can play a completely different part later while still being clear that it's the same guitar sound. So I'm hoping this video can help you think about your musical choices in a different way and create more cinematic music. But the idea that every single musical and sonic choice should help contribute to building the world of your song can be pretty daunting at first. It's really easy to overdo it and just litter your songs with a bunch of disjointed sounds. So if that sounds like a trap that you might fall into, then watch this video next, where I show you a technique that I adapted from Herbie Hancock to make your songs more unique while doing less.